Now, we're going to start with the top part here where the actual name of the business will be. And like I said, this is going to be a make-believe, made-up department store that you're going to use as your first website here. So I'm going to zoom in this area here. Now, I'm going to take both of the visibility off of these two layers. And let's take a look at this object here. So it is a rectangle, two rounded corners. The top part matches the background color, and then it's a gradient into a different color. So what we're going to do is start with a new rounded rectangle. So what I want to do is actually match that gray color. So I'm going to turn this back on, and then I'm going to click on my foreground color, and then I'm going to match the color right here. Click on OK. That changes the foreground color, which will then change the fill color for our shape that we're creating. And now what I'm going to do is just drag it out like this. And that is pretty good, other than the fact, let me zoom in here, you can see I actually didn't get it the whole way here, but that's okay. That's okay. We're gonna still work with it the way it is here. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's take this base layer off here, and then I'm gonna rasterize this layer. Remember, just right click and then go to rasterize layer. And now I'm going to zoom in here, and then on my rounded rectangle I'm gonna just draw a select, whoops, let me control Z here. I'm gonna pick on my selection, or my rectangular marquee tool, and then I'm gonna actually fill this corner in that we need to be gray. And okay, that's not good enough. So if yours isn't right on the edge here, if that left edge of your rectangle isn't right on the edge of this rounded rectangle here, press Control D to deselect, and then drag it out again. It may take a couple times. There we go. You're gonna want to go a little bit to the left here. So what I'm gonna do is just fill in. I still have that color in here, so I'm just going to fill this area here, and then I'm going to do a Control D to deselect. I'm going to zoom back over on the right hand side, and then I want to drag out another rectangle. Actually, sometimes it's easier to go left to right, so I'm going to drag this out here, and then I'm going to fill this in with that gray color also. Sometimes if it doesn't get all the pixels here, just you may have to click in a couple areas. So I'm going to go press Control D to deselect that. Now, if you take a look, if I turn these other two layers on, that blends right in with the base layer here. But if I go ahead and take both of these opacities back up, you can see now it is starting to come together. Okay, now you can see, oh, I know what I did wrong. You can see here, I matched the gray color, and the opacity was down. So what we want to do, there's an easy way to fix this. I'm going to click on my move tool and then hold in Control and click on this little preview area on the rounded rectangle 2 layer. And then I'm going to rematch this color. Here you can see now it's a little bit darker. I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. Now I want to click on this layer here, make sure it's selected, and then let's just go up to Edit, Fill, and then we are going to use the foreground color. Then click on OK, and then press Control D, and you can see it matches up perfectly now. So we can zoom out, and now let me hide all of these now. You can see there's a gradient on here. It gives it a little bit more of an aesthetic value. So I'm going to turn these back on, and it's gray here. So I'm going to actually reselect that layer. So holding Control and click on this little area right here. And then I'm going to go to my gradient tool, which is hidden behind the paint bucket tool. And then we need to set this gradient. And actually what I want to do is for this one, match that foreground color. And then for this one over here, I'm going to make it just a darker gray. So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. And actually, if you have the white here, double click on that. The opacity is at 0 and just drag it on up. That's this top stop here. The top is for the opacity stop, and these are the color stops on the bottom. So I'm just going to do a light gray to a dark gray. Click on OK, and then I'm going to drag this from the top of my selections and hold in Shift and drag straight down to here. And that's going to put a nice gradient on there. And if you press Control D, yeah, that should match just right up there. So that's putting a nice look for the actual name of your business here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename these layers. This is going to be base. This is actually part of the base too, so this is going to be base 2, and then we'll name this company name. And then we're going to have to put the name in here. So I'm going to click on the text tool. And then you're going to want to pick what style you want. I'm going to use Magneto here. So I'm going to click right in here. And I'm going to put good. Actually, let's do goods department store. I'm going to highlight all that, and I'm going to I'm going to bring the size of this up. I'm going to click on here, and if you want to, you can get much more graphically involved with your letters here. Mine's just white right now. I think I'm going to go ahead and change that. Actually, let me zoom out here. One thing I'm going to do, you can see it's lighter up in this way, so store sticks out much more than the word goods. So what I'm going to do is double click in this blank area of the layer over here. Just double click. And then I'm going to add a stroke. And you can see right away that it really makes those letters pop. But once you hit stroke, it doesn't actually change the blending option properties. So you actually have to click on the word here. And I'm going to actually just give it a 1 pixel stroke on the outside, very subtle. And we'll leave it at that black color, and then let's go ahead and click on OK. And now there is the logo here. Moving on, actually I'm going to modify my text just a little bit here. Yours may look a little bit different than mine, but what I want to do is make sure this top word is actually below this imaginary line that would connect this corner point to this corner point. Just imagine a line being there. One thing you could do is just actually select your text and then nudge it down a couple pixels, which is fine, but I feel like there's quite a bit of space between the two rows here. So if we want to modify that, we have to go up to Window and make sure our character panel is on. Character panel will modify your text here. So I'm going to click back on the text tool, and then I'm going to click in the middle of the text here so it actually activates the text again. So let's highlight everything here. Now let's take a look over in the character panel here. Now if I hover over here, what controls the distance between the lines is right here, which is called the leading. So what I'm going to do, whoops, you can see that it's very touchy. So I'm going to actually set it to about, what's it, that looks pretty good. That's about 31 points here, and you can see the distance between the letters is much smaller. And I'm going to click on my move tool and then click back on my text and then just nudge it down a bit more. Now you can see we are clearly away from this imaginary line that's connecting these two corner points here. Because like I said before, we're going to be cropping that gray area out. We're just using it for design purposes right now. So that's good on that end. You can go ahead and close out the character panel. We may open it up again later, but we can close it out for now. Now we are going to move down the page here. So we're going to have to put everything back onto one layer. Actually, let's merge these two base layers. So I'm going to click the one holding shift and then click the other one, right click, merge layers, and now I'm just going to rename this just to base, and it accounts for both of those layers. Now what I'm going to do is bring the opacity back down so we can see what's underneath it, back down to 70%. Now we're going to now move down the row here, and we're going to create this navigation bar. with this area that you can put other text in. So what you can see here, we have rounded corners, and then it changes to black where the navigation part is, and then it comes down, we have a rounded corner, then it goes over to the edge here. So we're going to try and replicate that the best as possible. So what I'm going to do is work with a rounded rectangle again, and I'm going to actually click on my text layer first because it will then create the new layer on top of that one. So let's click here, and then I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and then I'm going to drag the new object out like this. Now this has been drawn out. I'm gonna hide that layer. Let me hide our base layer so we can kind of see what we're working with here. Now actually I'm gonna hide everything here. Okay, so now this top part of the rounded rectangle is a different color than everything else that we've been working with before. But it's not too much different. It's still kind of the same shade as the other colors. But we're going to want to now pick a color similar to that. So let's turn everything back on here and even the rounded rectangle, and then I'm actually going to rasterize this layer. And now remember down below here you can see I didn't quite go as far. It looks like I was about a pixel off, which that's perfectly fine. If you did the same thing, don't worry about it. But what we want to do is cap off this left corner piece. So click on your rectangular marquee tool, and then I'm going to start right here, and again, if you just did what I did, you're about a pixel off. Hit Control D, and then I'm going to move over. There we go. Now I'm going to draw a rectangle out so it's connecting to this edge and this edge here. So what I'm going to do then is pick my, actually let's just go up to Edit and then go down to Fill, and then we're going to pick the foreground color here, and then that fills in that corner there. Now I'm going to press Control D, and then I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. Now I'm going to actually keep that there. This is the same color as the background here, which I think that's okay, because then it keeps it pretty consistent with the rest of the website. So, but you're actually not seeing this one true. We would actually have to bring the opacity up. So you can see here this color is matching that background, but then it leads into the gradient here, which is perfectly fine. So I'm going to actually I'm going to hide the base layer, then I'm going to bring down the opacity of this layer to about 70%. Now we're going to go ahead and start creating the nav bar here. So one thing you can see right off the bat is, actually let me hide this real quick. You don't have to hide it. You can see here it's a dark box, and then you can see here these are just 1 pixel lines going up and down. So what we're going to do And you don't necessarily have to make your navigation bar look exactly like this, but you want to get it pretty close. I'm going to turn this back on, and then I'm going to actually draw a regular rectangle out. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, and then pick right on that edge and then drag it out like this. And now I'm going to change the fill color to a dark gray. Actually, I'm going to change the fill color let's actually change it to I'm going to try and match that color up top as best as possible. That's actually pretty good right there. Okay, so there we are with that. Okay, good. Now, moving down the row here, we have another box. So what we're going to do is grab our rectangular, our rectangle tool. I'm going to zoom in here, and then I'm going to click and drag. Actually, I'm going to Control Z that, and you want to leave about a 1 pixel space on the left hand side here. So I'm going to drag that out, which is good, and I'm actually going to change this fill color to I want it to be a lighter. Now I would like to match actually the color that we've been using, so I'm actually going to make sure that's that background color. I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to actually drag this. Actually, we're going to click Add to Swatches. And if you don't have your swatches, actually let me close this. If you don't have your swatches panel active, click on it here. Click on your foreground color. And then click on to Add to Swatches. And then we'll just name this BG Gray for background gray. Click OK, and you can see it opens it up there. And then I'm going to hit on Cancel. And then just make sure you're back on your rectangle tool. And then make sure this rectangle is selected. It should be the last one you made. And then click on the fill and then match that color there. And that'll be exactly what that color is here. And if I zoom in, you should be able to see it here. Now I'm going to actually bring the opacity back to this one. And actually, okay. So yeah, I just want that to be a little bit more of a lighter part here. So let's actually rasterize both of these shape layers now. So now this top one, which is actually this first one here, that's the Nav Bar. And this will be the information. We'll just put recent info to abbreviate. there. And then let's go ahead and hide all these layers except for the background now. Okay, now it just has this little area right here for support, for call support. We'll just leave that as is. Actually, to simplify this, let's do this. I'm going to take from recent info, which is this box, Nav Bar, which is this box, and then actually this rounded rectangle one, which we already rasterized. We're going to merge all three of these layers. So merge layers, and then this is just going to be left sidebar. And then that'll be all one. Let's turn this back on, that back on, and that back on. At this point, if you are just fine with your text, which I am, I'm going to rasterize that as well. And then I'm going to merge that down with the company name. So we'll just name that goods department store, and that'll be that whole area right there. And like I said before, we're going to be merging this whole area. So let's go ahead. I'm going to turn the base layer back off. And now we're going to be starting to work on the rest of it here. Actually, let's do the footer right now. Go ahead and turn your base back on. And I'm going to go ahead again and lower the opacity down to about 70%. And then I'm going to grab my rounded rectangle tool again, and I'm going to zoom down towards the footer. Now we want to keep it right in line with our left sidebar. So I'm going to zoom in over here. And if you don't get it perfect, don't worry about it. We can nudge it over whenever the time comes after we create it. So I'm going to go ahead and click and drag this out. And I'm going to drag this down into the gray area that we have created, and then go ahead and let go. Now that we have created the footer, I'm going to zoom in on the bottom left here, and I'm going to drag a guide out. So click on your ruler and drag to the left. Okay, you can see here we're about 1 pixel off from being lined up with the left sidebar. So I'm going to make sure that my rounded rectangle layer is selected. I'm going to click on my move tool, and then I'm going to hit the right arrow key on the keyboard, and that'll nudge it 1 space to the right, or 1 pixel to the right rather. And I'm going to then get rid of my guide by dragging it to the left. Now I'm going to turn my base opacity back up, and then I'm going to zoom out. Now what I'd like to do is match what we did up here with the gradient. So I'd like for the bottom part to match the gray color up top and then fade into the charcoal color down below. So what I'm going to do is go down here, and I'm going to let's right click the base layer, or no, the rectangle that you just created, and rasterize it. And now I'm going to control and click on the little preview of that layer. And then I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to make sure that all the pixels are selected, and it doesn't look like it had selected all of the corner here. Let me look over on this side now. Yeah, you can see there are a couple pixels that are outside of the actual selection area here. So what I'm going to do, before we expanded it by a pixel, but if we do that, I'll show you what it does. It puts us beyond how we're lined up with the sidebar here. So I'm going to show you another way we can do this. It's going to be with a Lasso Tool, and I'm going to use the Add to Selection option up in the option bar, and then I'm going to zoom in over here, and then I'm just going to draw a circle around each one of those pixels that's not included in the original selection. And now we want to do that for each corner. Just draw a circle, and you want to get close to the edge of that pixel that's not selected, so it expands the selection out around it. Now let's go ahead and do the other side here. And you can see how I'm doing it here. If you don't get close enough, like if you just do a little circle like this, it won't actually expand it around this pixel. So you want to make sure you get close to the edge. And now I'm going to go down and do the last corner here. And let's zoom out here. Okay, so that's good. Now what we want to do is drag a gradient that is the same gradient as this one up here. So what I'd like to do is actually this color right here that I have on the right hand in my swatches panel is this top color here, but I do not have this bottom charcoal color saved. So what I'm going to do is just click on my eyedropper tool and go down pretty far, and then that's going to match the color here. Then if I click on my foreground color, I can add to my swatches. It's going to ask me what the color swatch name is, and we'll just put GRAD for short for gradient, and we'll put CHAR for the charcoal color. So let's go ahead and click OK, and now that added it right there. So I'm going to go ahead and close my foreground picker, and then let's go ahead and select our gradient tool. Click in the gradient bar. Now in the gradient editor dialog box, I want to modify the current gradient if it's not the same, and then I'm going to click on this color stop and then go up and match this color, and then I'm going to click on this color stop and match that color, and it'll match the gradient from up above. So let's go ahead and click on OK. Now you can see it should have changed here. So now what I will do is start towards the bottom area. You can see that the red boundary is coming down, it's rounding, and it's going straight across here over. So the edge of our rectangle here is probably off of that boundary, probably about, say, 8 to 10 pixels or so. So what I'm going to do is click where I think that boundary may be. I'm going to click and then hold in shift, and I'm going to drag it straight up and then let go whenever I hit the other edge there. And then if I press Control D, it should have made that gradient similar to the one at the top here, but I can see that we didn't expand our gradient quite enough. So we'll fix that right now. Simply, whenever you only have a few pixels here that need changed, I'm going to just use my brush tool. Here's the brush tool. I'm going to click on here. But if you have a big brush like I do right here, I'm just going to go up to the size picker, and I'm only going to pick about 2 pixels here, and you're going to want the hardness at 100%, which will make a very hard edge to the actual brush here. And then I want to match this color. Click on OK, and then we can simply just brush that back. And then I'm going to go over on this side here, go ahead and just brush all those pixels back. You may have to run over them once or twice. There we go. And let me zoom in here now. We can see that this wasn't the best either. So let's go ahead and I'm going to match now this color. And let me control it. You can see there's a little bit here. If you get any color outside of the area that you're trying to actually color, press Control Z. And if you need to go back more than one time, you have to press Control Alt Z. And then I'm just going to go over these area just a bit, and you may have to actually match, since we're using a gradient, match that row for the color that you're trying to correct. So that's pretty good right there. I'll go over and do the same to this side. Okay, that's pretty good. So now this bottom part will match then the top part pretty good. And now before we're done, let's go ahead and rename this area to footer. And that is pretty good.